You do not send bombers into hostile airspace without fighter escort. Not in 1942, not when you're facing the Luftwaffe, the most experienced, battle-hardened air force in the world. The German fighter pilots who've dominated the skies over Poland, France, and the Soviet Union, men who've perfected the art of destroying bombers. The mathematics are brutal. A bomber, no matter how well armed, is fundamentally a defensive aircraft. It's large, slow, predictable. It flies in straight lines to hit targets accurately. These characteristics make it vulnerable, easy prey for fighters designed for speed and maneuverability. Every Air Force in 1942 knows this truth. The British learned it the hard way. In 1939 and 1940, the RAF tried daylight bombing raids over Germany. The losses were catastrophic. Entire bomber formations decimated by Luftwaffe fighters. The British abandoned daylight raids entirely, switching to night bombing where darkness provided some protection, even if accuracy suffered. The Luftwaffe knows how to kill bombers. The tactics are proven. German fighter pilots attack from the front, the 12 o'clock position, where bombers have minimal defensive armament. Bf-109s and FW-190s dive at 400 miles per hour, machine guns and cannons blazing, ripping through cockpits and engines. The bomber crews die before they can respond. Then the fighters break away, climb, and attack again. German pilots call it wilde Sau, wild boar hunting. The prey is the bombers, and the Luftwaffe is very, very good at this. In 1942, the United States Army Air Forces faces a strategic problem. America has entered World War II. The plan is to destroy Germany's war-making capacity through precision daylight bombing, hit factories, oil refineries, rail yards, cripple Germany's ability to produce weapons and fuel its military. But there's a problem. American long-range fighters don't exist yet. The P-51 Mustang, the fighter that will eventually escort bombers all the way to Berlin, won't be operational until 1944. In 1942, American fighters lacked the range to accompany bombers deep into Germany. So, the USAAF proposes something the British consider insane: unescorted daylight bombing, sending formations of 4-engine bombers, B-17 flying fortresses, hundreds of miles into German-controlled territory without fighter protection, relying entirely on the bombers' defensive armament. The British are skeptical. They've tried this. It failed. The losses were unsustainable. The Americans insist their bomber is different. The B-17 Flying Fortress carries 13 50-caliber machine guns, defensive positions covering every approach angle. The name itself, Flying Fortress, suggests impregnability. And when multiple B-17s fly in tight formation, their combined defensive fire creates an overlapping kill zone. Any German fighter attacking a formation would fly into a storm of 50-caliber fire. The Luftwaffe laughs at this. German intelligence has analyzed the B-17. Yes, it's heavily armed, but it's also slow. Maximum speed 287 miles per hour. The Bf-190 can reach 410 miles per hour. The FW-190, 410 miles per hour. Speed wins dogfights. The B-17's defensive guns don't matter if German fighters can choose when and how to engage. Luftwaffe pilots start calling the B-17 Der fliegende Sarg, the flying coffin, a big, slow target packed with fuel and bombs. Easy to hit, easy to kill. The Americans are sending their air crews to their deaths. In August 1942, the first American B-17 missions begin. Small raids, shallow penetration into occupied Europe. The Luftwaffe engages, and the killing begins. But something unexpected happens. The B-17s don't die easily.
The concentrated defensive fire, dozens of 50 caliber machine guns from a tight formation, proves devastating. German fighters attacking head-on fly into walls of tracers. Some are destroyed, others are damaged and forced to break off. The Luftwaffe adapts. They develop new tactics, attack from angles where the B-17s have weaker defensive coverage, coordinate attacks to overwhelm formations, focus fire on individual bombers to knock them out of formation, then finish them alone. The air war over Europe becomes a brutal test. Can American bombers survive unescorted deep penetration raids? Or will the Luftwaffe prove that daylight bombing without fighter escort is suicide? On May 17, 1943, that question will be answered over the skies of Germany. And the B-17 Flying Fortress will prove that some fortresses earn their name through blood.
His name was Robert Knight Morgan, 24 years old in May 1943, from Asheville, North Carolina. A farm boy who'd learned to fly before the war, crop dusters, small planes, anything with wings. When America entered World War II, Morgan enlisted in the Army Air Forces. He wanted to fly fighters, fast, maneuverable, romantic. The Air Forces made him a bomber pilot instead. 4-engine heavy bombers, the B-17 Flying Fortress. Morgan was disappointed initially. Bombers seemed less glamorous than fighters, but he learned to love the B-17, its size, its power, the way it could absorb damage and keep flying. By May 1943, Morgan is a first lieutenant and aircraft commander. His bomber, tail number 41-24485, is named Memphis Belle, after his girlfriend in Memphis, Tennessee. The nose art shows a young woman in a blue bathing suit. His crew painted it themselves. Morgan's crew consists of 9 other men: co-pilot Captain James Varenus, navigator Captain Charles Layton, bombardier Captain Vincent Evans, flight engineer Technical Sergeant Harold Locke, radio operator Technical Sergeant Robert Hansen, ball turret gunner Staff Sergeant Cecil Scott, waist gunners Staff Sergeant Casimir Nastal and Staff Sergeant Clarence Winchell, tail gunner Staff Sergeant John Quinlan. They've been flying combat missions since November 1942. By May 1943, they've completed 25 missions. Most crews don't survive 5. The average life expectancy of a B-17 crew in 1943 is 15 missions. Morgan and his men have beaten the odds 4 times over. But they're exhausted, physically and psychologically. Every mission is terror. 10 hours in a cramped, freezing aircraft, flying through flak and fighter attacks, watching other bombers explode or spiral down, trailing smoke. Every mission, some of their friends don't come back. The USAAF has a policy: complete 25 missions and you rotate home. 25 missions is considered a combat tour. Crews that reach 25 are sent back to the United States to train new air crews or sell war bonds. They've done their part. Memphis Belle has completed 24. One more mission and Morgan and his crew go home. But there's a problem. The 25th mission target is being planned, and it's going to be the most dangerous raid yet. The context: by May 1943, the Allied strategic bombing campaign is reaching a critical phase. American and British bombers are hitting German industrial targets around the clock. The British bomb at night. The Americans bomb during the day. The goal is to destroy Germany's ability to make war. But the losses are severe, very severe. In 1942 and early 1943, American bomber formations are losing 5 to 10% of their aircraft per mission. Some missions lose 20% or more.
The 8th Air Force, the primary American bomber force in Europe, is hemorrhaging crews faster than they can be replaced. The problem is the Luftwaffe. German fighters are decimating bomber formations. The B-17's defensive armament helps, but it's not enough. Without fighter escort, bombers deep in Germany are still vulnerable. The Air Force brass knows this, but they also know that stopping the bombing campaign would hand Germany a strategic victory. So the raids continue, and the crews keep dying. May 17, 1943. The target for the day's mission, Wilhelmshaven and Bremen, Germany. Submarine pens and aircraft factories. Deep penetration raid, over 300 miles into German territory. No fighter escort for most of the route. American fighters lack the range. The bombers will be on their own. Memphis Belle is assigned to the raid. Mission number 25, the last one. Morgan briefs his crew. They know what this means. Survive one more mission, just one more, and they go home. But this is the deepest they've ever flown into Germany. The Luftwaffe will throw everything at them. The crew is terrified, but they're also professional. They've survived 24 missions through skill, discipline, and luck. They'll need all three today. 0600 hours, May 17, 1943. Morgan and his crew climb into Memphis Belle. They run through pre-flight checks. Engines start. The B-17 shudders to life. At 0630 hours, the bomber taxis to the runway. At 0645 hours, Memphis Belle takes off from Bassingbourn Airfield in England. The bomber climbs, joining the formation. Over 100 B-17s assembling for the raid. They fly east, over the English Channel, into hostile airspace. The mission has begun, and hell is waiting.
0730 a.m. The formation crosses into German-controlled airspace over the Netherlands. 115 B-17s flying in tight combat box formation. Memphis Belle is in the lead group, the 91st Bomb Group. Morgan scans the sky. Clear. No fighters yet, but he knows they're coming. The B-17 formation is designed for mutual defense. Aircraft fly in staggered levels, some high, some low, some in the middle. Each bomber's defensive guns cover the blind spots of nearby aircraft. In theory, attacking fighters must fly through overlapping fields of fire. In theory. 0745 hours. The intercom crackles. Tail gunner John Quinlan. Bandits! 6 o'clock low! 3! No! 5! Jesus, there's a lot of them! German fighters. BF-109s and FW-190s climbing from bases in Holland. Quinlan counts at least 20 fighters forming up for attack runs. Morgan's hands tighten on the controls. All positions, call out your targets, fire when they're in range, conserve ammo. The Luftwaffe fighters split into groups. Some climb to attack from above, others dive below the formation, preparing to attack from beneath, where the B-17s have weaker defensive fire. The first attack comes at 0748. 6 FW-190s diving from 2,000 feet above the formation. They're targeting the lead bombers. Memphis Belle is a lead bomber. Morgan watches them come. 300 yards, 200 yards, 100 yards. The top turret gunner, Harold Locke, opens fire. Twin 50